Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm Chilling3000 here, and welcome to episode number 91 of Chilling3000 Hangouts. Hope all of you had a great Christmas yesterday with your family or friends or whoever you celebrate with. Same for the holidays. And today it is now time for an interview here, live on the Chilling3000 Network here on December 26th, 2022. Today I am here with a content creator who is game show YouTubers that has done it all for a lot of years without trying to make him feel old. Please welcome Brandon Scruggs, MVG Productions.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Even though
Thank you.
I look at the gray hairs in my goatee every day, and I'm like, yep, I'm definitely not the young spring chicken I used to be. But hey, I still enjoy doing it nonetheless. But I appreciate the
Yes.
effort.
Yes, I honestly can't remember how long you've been doing this. It was like 2015, I believe. You've been doing this
Yeah,
since.
I think this was the my 6th year going into doing this. So yeah, this goes back to 2015, 2016 when I first
Okay.
started uploading. I have had my YouTube account for like forever, but again, first video didn't go out till back then. I think it was I want to say it was like late August 2015. I put up my very first two videos on my channel. They were actually two episodes of the match game we recorded that week. So
Uh,
that was fun times.
yeah. So, for those that don't know who you are, tell everybody about yourself, Brandon.
Well, for those of you who've never met me or even heard about my channel, my name is Brandon. I am about to be 39 years old. I come from the mountains of Western North Carolina. I am a casino dealer by day and I've done a lot of different things by night, whether it be a DJ, a wrestling commentator, ring announcer, and I also post YouTube videos to my channel MVG Productions, where I basically recreate some of your favorite game shows from the past, present, and or future, and a couple of our own personal creations there. So
Very cool. So, how did YouTube start for you?
YouTube started for me in a sense of that I was always wanting to present game shows because I felt like it was always a way to be for me to be competitive, being that I mean, as I was a large kid and honestly, genuinely, I could have been very athletic, but unfortunately, I had bad knees growing up, and that just comes from genetics in my family. So I was never able to
Yeah.
participate in sports that way. So I always focused more on my academics. And one way that my mom and my dad sort of kept me occupied during the summer was allowing me to watch like game shows on television back during the 90s when they had the golden era of game shows that were being rebroadcasted on USA. So I watched a lot of the classic ones, everything from like Joker's Wild, Tic Tac Doe, Sail the
Tic tac
Century,
toe.
Pressure Luck. Yeah, so a lot of those. So that got me into it initially, and then years later, I was able to find an online community sort of that actually not only made custom games for like some of these classic game shows, but they also took turns each other with like hosting. Now, mind you, I did not have a computer or anything like good enough at the time to be able to do that. So I would be more along the lines of the audience just sitting along, playing along, and just watching the fun go down. Which eventually, when I got to a point where I actually had a setup when I could do it, I was like, you know what, let's host some of these just for fun, see how people enjoy them. And then from there, I've seeing a lot of folks start posting like their own renditions of game shows and stuff online. So at that point, I ended up um, figured it's like, you know what, they're doing it. Let me give it a shot here. So posted my first
Hmm.
week's worth of tapings that I did. Had recorded two episodes of the match game and my very first episode of Tic Tac Doe, which going back and looking at it nowadays was just something different now because I'm like I've gotten so much better at it and like I partially cringe, but I'm still proud of it because again, it was the first step on down a long line that I was not comfortable with at all. But you know what? I've learned as I've
Yeah.
went through the process.
Yeah, like everybody when they start YouTube, like if you look back, like you feel different then than you do now on that video.
hmm Oh yeah, I mean, just in general, as like talking about it, as I say, yeah, I went with a different style. I went with just recording the game to actually making it feel more like I'm actually on a set and you're actually watching an episode like you would on GSM. Mind you, I still haven't put more editing into it for, like, where you could see my face as I'm reading questions to folks or things of that nature, but I'm getting there slowly but surely. Just got this new
Yeah.
camera working now recently that you guys are seeing here for the first time. Got it working now, so I'm hoping that this is gonna be able to allow me to do that more in my videos in the future, which means I actually might have to start looking nice instead of recording half my shows like I do in my PJs half the time. I'm
Oh,
comfortable, but
jeez.
I'm still doing the shows, it's like we have fun with it.
Have you ever thought like putting like a camera like at the bottom of the screen or something for your game show
Yep.
programs?
Yep, I've thought about it, and like I said, and again, I haven't had this long enough to, like, really mess around with it yet, and plus, again, I still work a full-time job, and I've got other activities that sorta keep me busy all the time, so I don't have as much time to dedicate to it as I used to, but, eventually, I said it's gonna all come together, and hopefully with,
Yeah.
some of the stuff that I'm doing this coming year, probably closer to the summer, I'll be able to start incorporating more of that.
So, how did you come up with MVG Productions?
Um, and this is like the one question that I get more often than not. Like, how did the name come about? Well, it's actually all based off of my wrestling persona. I'm a
Mm,
ring announcer and commentator, and I had to come up with a name initially that was figure out something that would work for BU channel, but also at the same time sort of sound like a you were watching a television network. But yeah,
yeah.
my wrestling name is Michael Vance Gentry. So
Hmm.
thus I just took the initials MVG and then added productions to it. So that's based off where it initially comes from. But I toyed around with a bunch of different names, but I was like, that was the one that sounded like, could be a network, could be a person, who knows? I ran with it, and I'm glad I went with it because it's stuck ever since. And plus, fun fact, my actual first name is Michael, so it's like half truth,
Hmm.
sort of a half truth to who I am. That's also representation for my mother because her last name is Gentry, so that's how the two sort of came together. The end.
If only had your station called KWTF, well, who
Mhm.
knows? But I've known so many Brandons today. It's just crazy. So there you go
Right,
on that.
and that's why I never went by Michael going up through school because, from, like, kindergarten up until, like, 3rd grade, I was always put in the same class that had 2 other Michaels in it. So, to make it easier on
Oof.
my teacher, I always went by my middle name, Brandon, and, well, it kinda just stuck. And I'm not mad at it
Yeah.
because I like Brandon. Not that it's not that I hate Michael, I just always preferred my middle name, I guess.
I used to be original about it.
Mhm.
So when you started YouTube with the MVG Productions, like what made you to do what you do today, and that is creating game show episodes of everybody's favorite game shows?
Well, I think it was due to the lack of now this was the lack of game shows that were on television at the time. I mean, like television for like in a sort of quiz or game show style definitely had moved away from like traditional game shows that you'd seen in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s and moved more toward the reality shows like your Survivors, your Big Brothers, things of that nature. And I was like, I missed watching a lot of those growing up because they're part of my childhood, and they're again they're it's good content that everybody enjoys doing. I mean, I can't tell you,
Hmm.
especially over just this past year alone, how much Jeopardy has blown up into the worlds of homes with the
Yeah.
amazing number of super champions they've had this year. So it's been wild to see. But I did it out of sort of a passion of like there was a lot of these great game shows that I still enjoyed watching, but you were never going to get new episodes of because they no longer exist. So I was
Hmm.
like, how I could do something like this and bring it back so we have like new episodes, still try to play under the same rules, maybe make adjustments for modern day things, but overall, like, I still wanted that same sort of nostalgic feeling, so when you tuned in, you're like, "Okay, they are playing the game and we're having fun." And again, it's something that again, it's just always been a passion of mine.
I've always wondered, like, how did the Game Show YouTube community started? Like, who started it?
Right? For me, it was me, finding, Big John on
Yeah.
his PC games where he made Flash versions of, like, some of the great ones that I still use today. I mean, my current Wheel of Fortune series and my Price is Right series, which I'm work that gets just episodes every now and then, still use both Big John's games, and
Oh yeah.
because they're still some of the best versions out there that I found of them, because there's a lot of customizable things you can do to them, and the price range on Price has so much variance in it. It's rarely you'll ever get the same game twice. There, so and
Mm-hmm.
that's always been a big thing for me.
Yeah, and then the C series, the big choice for it because well, you have everything you have without having to get a $200 control on Etsy.
Right.
But but at the same time, it's your decision of what you prefer.
Yeah, and like I
Um,
said, there's nothing wrong with them because I've purchased several of those as well too, as I've been
yeah,
able
they're
to
great games.
get get further in life to have a little more finances to my availability. But hey, still using some of those. But again, there's something nothing wrong with going back to some of the classics. Give that little bit of nostalgia feel to it.
Now, with your first video match game, like what was it like getting your first show together at that time?
To be perfectly honest with you, I had an idea of how it worked, like because I had messed around with the control the game itself, but I had no idea what I was realistically stepping my feet into. I'd seen enough people make their attempts at it, and I figured, okay, I could do match game because it's fun, it's sort of comedic, and again, I've always been a fan of improv. Like I'm like a huge fan of the guys from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Love that show. Sad to
Mhm.
see they're in their final season now, but I loved hearing
Mm.
about comedy and things of that nature, and I was like, I figured it was one of those shows that I was like, "Hey, it's on, it's fairly easy to put together and should be a lot of fun." And I really enjoyed it. And again, it was one of those things that it wasn't necessarily I had planned it being my first one, it just ended up being that way because I had recorded a bunch of things prior to that, and I'd made mistakes on some of them. A couple lost videos now, long gone. Didn't have no sound. One didn't record the game screen right. One of them just looked like it was this tiny little
Y'all been
itty
there.
bitty dot on the screen when I went to record it. So again, there was a number of calamities that went wrong with it, but those were the
Mhm.
first ones that seemed right, and I felt right when I went back into the process of editing. Which again, self-taught video editor. Everything that you see in the game is stuff that I've learned through my video editing software and just spending hours upon hours of pushing buttons and seeing what they do. So I figure out,
Mhm.
oh, okay, this makes more sense, and doing it
And
that
I,
way.
and I assume you use OBS. All the time you've been doing it.
No, not originally. Originally, I had started with Manicam, which was a little bit
Okay.
easier on my computer at the time to work with, and then eventually, probably, I'd say maybe about 3 years ago, I upgraded to using OBS when I had got my new laptop at the time because it had more RAM, more ability to it, and OBS
Yeah.
recorded a cleaner video, and there was some extra things I can, like, incorporate in there with it, and that's when I really started got to play around with it.
What about for video editing?
Video editing, I have always used, Power Director, simply
I use
because
that from time to time.
yeah, because initially on my previous laptop, when I first started with it, it was already included on there and it was absolutely free. I had the whole thing unlocked, so I just used it because it was already there. And then later on, as I've had to get new computers that didn't come with Power Director, I've had to shell out the money to pay for it. But again, it's as I tell people, it's my favorite $70 I spend a year. But I get everything with it, and more than likely, let's say I'm at the point now where I'm finally able to earn just a little bit, not much, but just enough to at least pay for that every year. So I'm like, all right, I can keep going with this now because it's at least paying
Yeah,
for itself at this point.
interesting. So, how did you get into game shows as a big game show fan like you?
Again, that just goes back to my younger years with my dad and my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young child, they would literally because when I was teething as a kid, and this is a story my mom's told me, they would actually sit me down in front of the TV with like Wheel of Fortune or Price is Right on, give me a cold rag because I was teething, so I'd have something to chew on, and just sit me there, and I was apparently a happy baby. It was cute, and then I guess growing up as I was learning how to read and write and spell and all that nature, I learned a lot
Yeah.
of it from Wheel of Fortune, and this funny story tell as well. Up until I really started learning my alphabet, I genuinely thought the first 6 letters of the alphabet were R, S, T, L, N, and E. I
Oh
kid you
God.
not. I know. It's weird,
Yeah.
it's funny, but at the same time, like, it was the honest truth. Because I'm pretty sure I was watching game shows and things with my parents long before I was watching, like, Sesame Street or anything of that nature.
Oh, so we got confused between that.
It
But
was confused because okay, you have to understand this is how my little 3, 4-year-old brain worked. I
mhm,
figured they were the first 6 letters of the alphabet because those were the letters they would give you in Wheel of Fortune to try to start you off. So I
yeah,
associated the word "start" with with those letters. So I was like, "Okay, those are the first 6. We have to pick out the rest that we want." So it's like, and
yeah,
that's just how it works.
yeah. Same with Jeopardy too. Like people learn like the ABCs like by watching those two shows. It's actually kind of crazy. But hey, same with Sesame Street or any program.
Mhm. Now,
Um.
I didn't really get into appreciating Jeopardy till much later in life because again, I never thought I'd be good enough to be on Jeopardy, and now that I've played with
Mhm.
friends and whatnot, that I'm like, I'd have a chance, but like I some of these super champions who were like amazing with their recollection of information that they've learned over the years, they blow me out of the water. But again, it wasn't until very later in life, I'd say probably within the last 10 to 15 years when I really started appreciating how good Jeopardy was and the legacy that it has. And now thankfully I get to watch some of those classic episodes now.
Yeah, and with Buzzer now, I mean, Kirsten stinks to the ground with nothing but Family Feud. The Family Feud network, I guess you could say,
I'm
or
not sure.
whatever.
It's not as much with GSN nowadays. They're typically trying to get into doing their own original programming, but again, they still have a license with Family Feud. So again, they're going to
Okay.
show as many of those old episodes as they possibly can there. But again, that's just them. So like, you can't
Hmm.
hate on them for working with what they've got because I mean that's how I started. It's like I had a very limited library of games and things that I wanted to do, so it was like I just worked with what I got till I got to where I wanted to be, you know? So you can't hate
Yeah,
on them. But again, there's other streaming, available out there for you. Hell, there's even a whole section on Pluto TV now dedicated to
yeah,
specific game shows like Deal or No Deal, Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. They have their own channels. So if that's the game show you wanna watch, you can watch it 24 hours a day now at that point. But again, I just enjoyed it because again, it made me think. It engaged my mind as a kid, and I think playing games was something that I've has always been a part of my life. Being that I'm a casino dealer and I deal cards and dice for a living, so it's like, yeah, it's just always been an innate part of me.
yeah. And with TSN, um, you know, people, Sony.
Hmm.
Sony has a big part of these shows. So,
Yeah.
by the way, if anybody has any questions for Brendan, you can put them in the live chat if you want. But you know, I'll only select specific ones because I have a whole bunch here, on my computer for to ask. Um, so just a little heads up, if you will. Um, when you started YouTube, what was something you knew you started that people will enjoy the content to come you are that make you proud of over the years?
Um, that's a good one. Honestly, it's like I've never considered doing anything else for like this sort of style media. I mean, I'm a singer. I've always enjoyed music and things of that nature, but I can't play an instrument. All I literally can do is just sing. And I can sing pretty well, but
Mm-hmm.
the thing is like there's every other person in the world that can do that has a singing channel, a music channel, and there's far people that are far better than I could ever be doing it. So I figured I'd do something that I actually had a passion for, something I wanted to share with, and thus, like game shows was like my own first and probably only ever attempt at trying to do something in this sort of media. Now, I could get
Yeah.
into becoming a let's player doing video games because I enjoy those with what little extra time that I have. But at the same time, I'm like, um it's it's part of who I am, and again, just it's something I've always wanted to do. And again, it goes back to saying a lot of these great game shows that are no longer on the air that they started bringing back like during the summer of fun and games. Because I remember back in,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was it 2018, I guess, when they announced the original Summer of Fun and Games lineup, I guess when they first brought back Pressure Luck, I remember watching the entire sort of like game show community lose their mind. Like, wait a minute, this show that we've always loved for so long, we're actually bringing it back in more of the classic style that we all remembered it. It's sort of that one piece of nostalgia meets one part of like excitement of it, and then that's figured something I would always want to do. And I figured, okay, and there's not many people that I've ever met in my lifetime that has actually not liked a game show. So I figured, hey, it's something that I can produce, something I can put on, and that people are actually going to sit down, enjoy, and watch, and listen, and play, possibly even play along with.
Yeah. And I believe, well, for the summer for the games, all I know is that Price Dog premiered in 2019 in Car Search, but I don't know like exactly about
Yeah,
2018.
I
But
wasn't sure exactly on the dates. I was like, it's 2018 ish, I guess, when we first heard about it, maybe.
probably like in advance because they have to make the tapings and all that, like however months in advance.
Yeah, because
Um,
I think we heard about it late 2018. They were taping the early part of 2019, picking up the
mhm,
first seasons of like Pressure Luck, and I guess that was the revival of Pyramid 2 at the time. So yeah,
probably,
hitting both of those and then come and then putting it to air that summer. I was like, yeah, didn't think it would happen, but they've caught on and they've done really well. I feel.
yeah. And it's still going on despite the lockdown from 2020. It's still going on with Price
Mhm.
Duck and Pyramid, which God give them all credit for that.
Right. And then we're seeing some of the even the older classics come back this year, like with Jimmy Fallon worked with Kiki Palmer to bring back Password this year, and then they're taping pilots for some of the
Yeah,
old shows that have come back, which again, sadly to hear on some of them not being renewed. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, it is an industry. They need to make money at the end of the day, but at the same time, like it's nice to know that there are people that still care about this sort of media form out
yeah.
there and want people to enjoy with it as well.
And as for, with Wheel of Fortune as well, I'm not sure about Jeopardy, but you've been getting these celebrity themed primetime game shows as well. So
Yep.
it's very nice for them to change it up a little bit.
Right.
Um, and honestly, I really wish I talked about this like back in the spring. Um, I wish that game shows were taped not just Los Angeles. I wish they would take game shows like in New York City, that's like 3 hours away from me. Like I will definitely make a trip to New York City just to see a game show taping or whatever. Because I feel like New York City needs more. Um, because all they have is just as for television, um, like the Jimmy Fallon talk show, and I don't know about Cash Cap now, but
Right.
I just wish that they film game shows other than Los Angeles. I think you can agree with me on that.
Yeah, well, there are some shows that still film in New York. I mean, I
Like
believe
Saturday Night Live.
I'm not mistaken. I think Pyramid actually still films out of New York because that's where Strahan lives. Because he's
Yeah,
got to work with Good Morning America at the time when he's doing his tapings there. So as far as I know, like there's shows that could still be there. I think the case is they have more be able to have more production values and it's easily filmed more in Los Angeles where you have studios already sort of dedicated to that space. Whereas in
yeah,
New York, you're getting more into like your news media and
hmm
sports things, and where the major television networks really have like hunker down and homes at.
yeah. But maybe like in the next couple of years they could arrange that, but it really depends. But um, this is not, like Los Angeles is basically like the main spot, but we'll
Sure.
see what happens in the future. I just wish they could do more stuff in New York City because I would love to go there for that. 3 hours
Uh-huh.
away from me.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Um,
great. I've told my wife many a time, like if we ever go to Los Angeles, we're going to a game show taping just because it would be fun.
yes, you
Hopefully, we get
know.
to like either Price is Right or Let's Make a Deal where we can actually be a contestant as long as we get into the audience. I'm like, hey, we got a
Mhm.
chance. See what happens.
Yeah, make a trip out of it and just keep auditioning.
Hmm.
Um, let me see. What are you most proud of your YouTube experience?
I think if I had to put if I had to put a definition to it, the one thing that I'm probably proud of is just sticking with it for as long as I've had because I've seen a few channels come and go and be like they're around for like a year or two and then you don't hear from them ever again. The fact that
Yeah.
I've been putting out new episodes of stuff for 6 years running now without like completely like giving up on the process is probably my is the thing I'm probably most proud of about it. It's the fact that I've stuck with it this long, and the fact that I've been able to put out so many different shows and content and things that people are like, "Oh my god, I remember watching this with my parents," and just
Hmm.
sort of reconnecting and getting those nostalgic feels for the folks at home that are really enjoying watching the content. I think that's probably what I'm most proud of here.
Yeah. People, make YouTube channels for different reasons and take breaks for different reasons. Anything can happen. So you're just gonna enjoy every bit of it, just like in sports.
Right?
Tomorrow you could get injured or have something trying to just quit. So, um, it's just really depends, on how you handle things, what the day brings, and just gotta enjoy every bit of it.
Yeah.
Um, what other things are you proud of on your YouTube experience?
I think another one for me was just the fact that I'm a self-taught editor. I knew nothing about editing videos or anything of that nature till I actually had to start doing it myself. And then
Hmm.
everything I've learned about how to blend things, how to blend scenes from one to another, how to adjust like screens or add text or things of that nature, just anything about the video editing process makes me not only appreciate the people who do it for a living regularly, but again, the fact that I knew nothing about it going into it and I can actually put together a half decent video now.
Yeah,
I'm proud about that.
yeah, and same for me as well because it's all about the process, and you want the video to have the best quality.
Right.
So, like you see my Whammy episode, which I'm trying to help him out with his I guess commercial break of your having people to do shows on your page. Um, so um, just do your best of your video editing. Like use what
Yeah,
you have.
yeah. Like I said, just use what you have to make the best that you can. That's all I've ever done.
Hmm. So you have two traditions every year on the MVG uh, channel, and that is Game Show Marathon and the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. You do the Game Show Marathon usually around 4th of July time, and the Hollywood Squares Hour New Year's Eve every single year. Tell us about how you came up with those two traditions and why you did them.
The first one for Game Show Marathon, that one was initially just the idea because there people were always talking about it being one of the greatest game show experiences in all of television history, and it kind of was because the fact that you had like a lot of these shows that had gone off air coming back for like one run in 2005 was like kind of wild to see
Hmm.
all these pieces of nostalgia just come back to our television runs, and I was like, you know what? Let's try it. And I figured I was just going to do it once just to see if it would actually work and if it was feasible for something we could do. But I was wanting
Yeah.
something like to have like a big event just to like have people gathered to watch it, not only during the live tapings of that week, but also during the final product that you guys get to see on YouTube every year. But the first one was generally just a sort of a personal love letter to my love for game shows and trivia and things of that nature now. And
Hmm.
then the ones after that was like, we had so much fun doing it last time. Let's do it again. And
Yeah.
that's how the years have run together now, and I've done 5 of them. So we're going to our sixth one. Actually, probably in the next few months, we'll start. Actually, being once the new year comes over is typically when I start coming up with a concept or just a general idea of what games or shows I want to do, and then usually
Yeah.
by like March I have it locked in, and then it's a matter of going through finding content and what I want to use for the games, and then just after that it's just on to air, and then a couple months later it's out on YouTube for everyone to see. So yeah, it's a process, and it's about that time for me to start thinking about it. Not necessarily doing anything with it yet, but it's time for me to start thinking about it at this point.
And but it must be interesting when you do the Games of Marathon. Um, like for those who don't really play trivia games, it's interesting to see how they handle them.
Yeah, because again, you a lot of folks don't know, and I usually don't tell anybody what games are being played till like the day before the whole marathon starts, and then I'll be like, "Okay, here's what's going down."
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
the thing is too with the players, it's like they randomly get put into game shows that they don't know which one they're going to end up playing at the end. So it's like everything's random drawn, random selected. So hopefully it's something in their wheelhouse that to their benefit or not, or figure out a way. Because I try to do a balance of not only like skill and luck based games along with trivia to give everybody about as fair of a chance as they can to walk away with it all. And
Mhm.
this past year's marathon was definitely a special one because one of our members of our community who had been out with who had suffered some serious like health issues like a year or so prior made his return back to us to play games this year, and spoiler alert, he actually ended up winning the whole thing. But like I said,
Wow.
it was wild to see him and to see him progress from a point where he could barely speak or have a conversation with us to actually winning this whole thing just from his
Wow.
trivia knowledge and whatnot. So it was impressive to watch, and it was sort of like okay, it was sort of meant to be, if, as it were. And it's been, and he's still continuing to get better. He's still doing rehab things, but again, he's back to a better quality of life than when it originally had happened before. So it's like I was very happy for him, and it was kind of one of those nostalgic moments. As like you have to watch the whole thing to sort of get the feel for it.
I'll have to check, on my free time to see like who it was because that's pretty crazy.
Hmm.
So I bet like that was your favorite games to marathon ever that you've done.
Um, Between last year's and this year's, yeah, I both of them
Hmm.
are good for different reasons. But I was like, those have been my two favorites. But again, who knows what I'll come up with this year? I'll figure it out eventually.
What about for Hollywood Squares Hour?
Match Game Hollywood Squares Hours, just it was one of those things that I was like, all right, going back to the original thing of like, I wanted more match game on the channel, but I was like, I didn't want to do necessarily just match game by itself. Eventually, when I found the original software in the packs that were I was using at the time when I first started the channel, it made me think about really getting into wanting to do something big for the end of the year to wrap up the year. Because I mean, to have one event with Game Show Marathon, which lasts a whole week, is great and all, but like, what can I do for something special just to say, put a put a sort of timestamp on the end of the year, figure out where we're at, and
Hmm.
as a community, as a channel, and then come to be like, all right, let's do this instead. And then that's when someone had pointed me toward the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour because didn't realize that it was actually even a game show. Because again, I love game shows, but I'm no historian. I can't tell you specific dates or anything about a lot of them. Like it's a lot of it is like I try to go and read and find out for myself. And then when I found out
Hmm.
that Bowser from Shanana and Gene Rayburn hosted a Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, I was like, how does that even work? And well, yeah, found an old episode or two on YouTube. This was before Buzzer brought back the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, I think last year.
Hmm.
And it was like seeing all those episodes redone, remastered like that. It was kind of wild. But to see the show, I was like, you know what? We could do this. I might be able to do this once. Which is again, if you haven't figured it out by now, sort of my business model. Like, I'll try any game show once. If it works out well, we can figure out ways to do it better, and I can maybe come up with more content to do it again. Sure, we'll go for it. But it's like
Yeah,
one of those things that like, hey, we'll try it out once. We'll see if we might have a good time with it. And then every year it is probably the most chaotic 2+ hour taping session that we have. Because what you guys see at home is probably a condensed version down to about maybe an hour, hour and a half. There's, there's
yeah.
there's no way within our format and with the people that we have here. There's no way we can get it done in an hour. I mean,
Ima-
we had to cut out
imagine
the thing.
imagine doing this live on StreamYard or something like or OBS. Like imagine doing this live. Yikes.
I worry about because there's some things that get said, and this is sort of a teaser for this year's Match Game Hollywood's Great Hour. There are some things and answers that get said that are like borderline risky, borderline borderline getting to the point of cancel culture. There was one that came up
Oof.
this year that I was like, when it was said, I thought it was funny at the time. Going back at it, realizing what it was done, I had to sort of like edit. I kept it in, but I heavily edited that part. So it is one of those things like you have to watch it to see. And that is a sort of a sneak peek at part of what happened in the fun, probably one of the funniest episodes of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour we've done here.
And it's coming December 31st at 8 o'clock.
It is 6 p.m. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing yeah,
6 p.m.
be on the MVG Productions YouTube channel this Saturday. Yeah, this
Hmm.
Saturday at 6 p.m. Figure get your laughs in and stuff before you go out for the evening for the all the parties and stuff because nobody wants to be at home unless you just want to be at home for New Year.
Yeah, and cancel culture like uh moment like this guy.
Yeah, I'm like cancel culture came after a lot of folks. I'm like I didn't want it after me, so I was like I left it in for the purpose of it wasn't saying anything, it wasn't promoting it, it wasn't necessarily being a saying it was a good and or bad thing. It was just the answer itself was just said. And then I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I can't leave it in there." But yeah, if you wanna see what it could be, which again, you won't hear the actual answer, but you could take a wild guess what it might have been referred to. And
Sure.
if you're smart enough cookie, you'll figure it out. But yeah, definitely one of the wildest moments I've had this year.
Yeah. Um. So, if you don't mind explaining, what do you do for a living when you're not doing YouTube?
Yeah, when I am not working on YouTube or dealing with wrestlers in a ring or singing my heart out at karaoke nights, I actually work at a casino. I am a blackjack and craps dealer by day, or by night, I should say, because I work an overnight shift there. It's what allows me to be able to do this here for YouTube during the day, during the evening hours, and be able to
Hmm.
have a normal, halfway decent life. But yeah,
Yeah.
I am definitely qualified as one of the night walkers. I'm up at night, I'll sleep all day, but hey, that's just way my schedule works out, and it works out for me, so it allows me the time to afford to be able to do all this.
I want to handle job schedule that changes from time to time because I want to keep it traditional. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I would
Um,
kill to have a 9 to 5 job every day. I'd still have time to be able to do all this and sleep like a normal person, but unfortunately, my current situation with what it is, this is literally the only shift they have that
hmm.
allows me to be able to still do my wrestling, do work with YouTube, and still have a full day to myself if I want it or if I need to. Take care of some business, I can do it right after work and then go home and crash. That's
Hmm.
me more often than not.
How is it like working at a casino? Is it so well fun to do?
Well, before I worked at the casino, I worked at a family arcade center for about 5, 6 years. So, place where you go in, you win tickets, give out prizes, things of that nature. It's
Hmm.
essentially a casino for kids if you really think about it. So, the
Sure.
transition from that to instead of giving away tickets, I'm giving away actual money, not that difficult. Mind you, there's a lot more procedurally done things of that nature that have to be done in the process and a lot more of a skill set that's needed to be a dealer, but, I've
Hmm.
already had practice at that point, so I was like, "Yeah, we're just going into it."
Yeah. And what about for the wrestling announcer?
That came from a stem of me loving professional wrestling. I've been watching wrestling probably since late 98, 99, into the right around I think one of my first big events I remember watching was WrestleMania 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Was one of the first ones that sorta hooked me in, and then I'd just been watching wrestling ever since, up until about 2010, 2011, when a local promotion that was just, out of Clayton, Georgia initially, came up to the, National Guard Armory, which was only, like, maybe a mile's walk from my house, and they were doing shows out of there. So I just took the notion to try to get some friends together that night. Or unfortunately, none of them ever came. So I went to the show by myself just because I wanted to see wrestling, what it looked like in a setting like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest kind of took shape from there. I saw it, I got hooked on it, and I wanted to be a part of it. I knew I couldn't necessarily be a wrestler, as it were, because that takes a lot of training and skill. Again, I have bad knees. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
But I knew I could talk about wrestling because I was again doing commentary or ring announcing, or what I really wanted to do initially was be a referee. But the problem with being a referee, though, is like when you're taller than half the roster, sometimes is like it's kind of a bad look for like a television presentation purposes. So that's what
Sure.
I got transitioned to being a ring announcer. And well, the rest is sort of taken history now. And now here I am 14 years later, still doing it.
What have you ever thought of, being an announcer for like the post game or the pre-game? What do you call like to talk about? Oh, what's gonna happen here today?
Oh,
Oh, let's talk about what
yeah,
just happened.
if I ever get a chance to do it for a promotion, I absolutely could. 'Cause I mean, there's a lot of things that it can go into that, and I'd be more than happy to do so. Like I said it's just a matter of not had that opportunity yet, but to be able to do live commentary for the shows, calling all the action as you're seeing it in the ringside, something I'm actually pretty good at. In fact, I found out just a couple days ago that I actually me and my broadcast partner, John the Body Johnson, we were nominated as we were in the nominations for best commentary team in the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. So
Wow.
I got the nomination, which I'm very happy about. Now it's just a matter of will I be able to will we win? I don't know. We'll know in a few weeks when they have their first ceremony. 'Cause the awards have been going on for like since like 2006, but this is the first time they're actually having like a awards style ceremony, like you'd see the red carpet and things of that nature for it. But either
Is
way,
there
unfortunately, I won't be able to go that night, which makes me sad.
oh,
I already have another show booked for that night, so duty
yeah.
calls, as they say.
Is there any way people can see your announcing for wrestling? Like
Nick,
is it streamed or something?
yeah. For one promotion, I'm the acting general manager. That's National Championship Wrestling. And the other
Okay.
one, I am part of the ring announce and commentary team. It's for Anarchy Wrestling, and both of those promotions can be content can be found on YouTube. It's
Hmm,
National Championship Wrestling (NCW) there, and it's based out of the Landmark Arena. And so is Anarchy Wrestling. And the fun fact about Anarchy Wrestling actually has a lot of ties to like a lot of the promotions that have big names in them now, like your WWE, your TNA Impact, your AEWs, because there's a lot of guys who wrestled in the Landmark Arena at Anarchy Wrestling and for National Championship Wrestling that have gone on to be big names for themselves. Fun fact, Matt Hardy, for those of you who know of the Hardy Boys fame, was the first ever NCW champion we had for that promotion. And then
hmm,
Anarchy has went on to produce many a names that have come wrestled through the building, like Xavier Woods of the New Day, the Monster Abyss from TNA, um, R Truth. When during his early days when he was still teaming with Road Dogg back in WWE, he came through and wrestled at Anarchy for a period of time. And but probably the most famous name of all then is the original house that AJ Styles built. Yes, AJ Styles, who actually lives in where is it? It is I can't think of the name, but it's
hmm.
yes, thank you. My wife just reminded me. Yeah, he's actually from Gainesville, Georgia. Still lives there with his family and whatnot. But yeah, he wrestled originally out of Anarchy there. So but yeah, biggest names in the world have come through that building. Luke Gallows, Matt Riddle, Austin Theory, several names have wrestled for both ACW and Anarchy, and the fact that I'm now there to get to be a part of it, helping these guys get to the next level, and possibly one day maybe even
Pretty
getting a
cool.
chance for myself. It's kind of wild, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Do you actually think this man is coming back to WWE? uh, I know you.
In
I think you hate him.
in the best essence of the word, Vince McMahon stepping down as CEO from WWE was truly what was best for business. It honestly, when they heard about the team that was taking over between Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H heading up creative, that sent prices through the. I think prices went up nearly about $1 a share on that particular day. And not only does it good from a business standpoint, but from a locker room and morale standpoint, after we'd seen some of the weirdest things in like WWE, it's nice to finally see some consistency and honestly getting some lost and lapsed fans back into watching wrestling again because they're actually seeing something that as a
Yeah.
program that they want to see, matches they want to see, stories that they want to hear. It was like, yeah. So this man stepping down, I will be in
Mhm.
that part of the community that says, yes, I'm glad he's gone. and hope he enjoys his retirement. But honestly, like he needs to stay away for the sake of everybody else here, and that, but only the sake he still is the majority shareholder of the company. So I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's best for his own pocket that he stays away from it too.
Yeah, and retirement in Connecticut, which is actually not too far away from me,
Hmm.
being here in Massachusetts. But um, now um, how I guess I'll say this: like, how did you grow up with wrestling? How do you know like everything about it?
I was just a fan. Like I'm just like anybody else who would go to a wrestling show. I just enjoyed watching the artistry that is professional wrestling, and then when I really knew there was something that I wanted to try to pursue, I started learning everything I possibly could do about it, and I've been taught by some very knowledgeable people along the way. Two of the men specifically who've helped me out through the years have been Rick Michaels, a former multiple time NWA tag team champion in his own right, and one of the most like knowledgeable people in the world of
Hmm.
professional wrestling. Another one is Mr. Bill Behrens, who has worked with just about everybody, it feels like, in professional wrestling over the years, and it still has ties to both TNA Impact and folks with the current order of the National Wrestling Alliance as well. So, like to see those, to have just to have the honor to work with those two gentlemen and learn from them has been a wonderful experience for myself as well.
Yeah, if you want to know something about a sport, like try to do your research. You know.
Right, and it helps. Like just pay attention, try to learn from what's going on in the room, figure out everything you can, and like I said, just you try to apply that knowledge to what works for you.
You have any advice like for people like want to do their research and want to get into any sport at all?
Um, You have to look at. For me, for wrestling, it was a matter of just you have to be invested in it. You have to be. It's something that you have to do. If you sort
Yeah,
of end up halfway doing it, it's gonna show in your results too. So, like, whatever you do, whether it be wrestling, any sport, any production, anything you do in life, it's like the amount of effort that you put into it is what you're gonna get out of it.
you have to like it.
Right. Not necessarily have to like it, but you have to be dedicated to it.
Better words.
Mhm.
Um, what is your favorite? What is your favorite wrestler of all time?
I knew this one would come up. I said it feels like it changes on a day-to-day basis in certain cases, but I enjoy I guess I've always defaulted to to the Rock initially because he had the total package. He could talk on the mic. He was very athletic, gifted, a very good entertainer. He could wrestle with just about anybody out there, from all the technical style people, um, and a lot of the technicians like your Bret the Hitman Hart, your Shawn Michaels, people who were students of the game, but also could put on a match. He could put on a match with a broomstick and make it entertaining. Let's put it that way. But in the current
Yeah,
generation, I have to say I have been big fan of um I'd say Kofi Kingston is another big one on my list because again, the man's done it all just about now. Just short of
hmm
actually winning a Royal Rumble, which again, I'm hoping for it this year, Kofi. I'm in your corner. Um, but you got that. Uh, I'm a fan of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, William Regal.
I've heard of him.
There's a bunch of names going back even old school if you want. Junkyard Dog again, just power, his charisma, Dusty Rhodes. Um, and then like some of the legends that really sort of set the footholds for professional wrestling, like the late great Bruno San Martino. Like a lot of this stuff is what I'm getting into, like getting really digging into some of the older stuff, figuring out what I can use from there to be able to make my game better today as well.
Yeah, and also about The Rock, like he's also very big in the movie world.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for his ability to do what he did in the ring first,
Yeah,
Hollywood may
nobody
have never
will.
been able to call him. So it's like, but
Yeah.
yeah, Rock is definitely ascended to that next level. But like, if you're looking at a total package of like being able to work in the ring and be able to talk on the mic and just be everything that a professional wrestler is designed to be, The Rock is definitely a blueprint you could look at too. But then you have guys like pretty much you also have guys like from the entire 2002 class of like who came up from Ohio Valley Wrestling (OVW), which that class all are going to be Hall of Famers at some point in time because you had John Cena, you had Randy Orton, you had Batista, and you had Brock Lesnar. All came from the same class of recruits, and now you've seen what they've done over the last 20 years wrestling.
Hmm. And John Cena can't be controversial, but that's what I heard.
But again,
Um,
he's another one that where some people hate him because he's so basic. He only has 5 moves. But like if you really think about it and you go back into your wrestling history, a lot of the greats in wrestling history only had like 3 or 4 moves. Like and I give you the prime example here, Stone Cold Steve Austin, which was one of the big ones a lot of people talk about. He had 5 moves. He'd punch you, he'd kick you, he'd give you a spine buster, a Luthez press, and a stone cold stunner. That's his almost entire that's almost his entire weaponry towards you. I mean, hell
yeah.
to a degree, Rock was sort of the same thing. Except Rock again, he was more athletic in what he could do. He had a few wrestling holds. He had a very good looking sharpshooter. He has the spine buster, of course. He has the rock bottom, the people's elbow. I mean, and there's just a lot of things that he could do too. I mean, look at
Mhm.
Andre the Giant again, man who just on his pure size alone, he didn't have to do much to get over. Like I said, one of his size like 18 6E boots would be big enough to just knock your head off. And
Mhm.
again, he's a Hall of Famer. He had like 3 moves. But again, that's all he needed too.
Yeah. Um, and Kevin Henry for watching this. I know you have no clue what he's talking about, but that's just me joking around.
Right.
Um, but back to the next question. Um, what is your favorite hobbies to do like on a regular day? Like, what is your favorite hobbies?
I enjoy some video game time when I can because it's a way for me to sort of unwind, disconnect from doing everything else and just enjoying enjoying some time, some downtime. But I also like reading, or I'm getting better at trying to read more often. It takes some time to
Mhm.
like do that. I've always
Yeah.
enjoyed music. I've again been a karaoke guy. I used to be a DJ or a KJ as they call it, a karaoke jockey. For a
Mhm.
few years, I'd work with a guy putting on karaoke shows and singing and getting a chance to do that. But yeah, that filled up 85% of my free time right there. And what was left, I've dedicated to sort of YouTube at that point. So yeah,
And wrestling as well.
yeah,
But
pretty much.
speaking of, I was looking back at ESPN, first taking all.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't, I don't know how their schedule works with sports, remembering everything about many sports.
They
It's kind of
have they
crazy.
have writing staff and they have paper. They basically they
Yeah,
go look up the stats and stuff they want to talk about for their shows, and they'll look right down and read notes just like anybody else would. I mean, I can read stats off a
sure.
screen. I can do that, but
Yeah,
let's say some people are just dedicated to just have the mindset for it. Again, goes back to what I was saying earlier about the amount of effort that you put into things. Whatever the effort you put in is what you're going to get out for sure.
yeah. Um, Now, as for game shows, since we talked about favorite wrestler, what about favorite game show?
Who? Um,
I don't think anybody knows this one.
yeah, I think I was like anybody who knows me is knows that like my favorite game show of all time was Tic Tac Doe, and that was because of my
Mm,
dad. He bought me originally the old like cheap dollar store tic-tac-toe games with, like, the red board and, like, the yellow X and O pieces. We'd play all the time, but one day he started notice when I was watching game shows, he would start asking me a question. He mainly like math problems because that's what I was good at as a kid. If I got it right, I got to put an X, but then I also got to ask him whatever I wanted to, too. If
mhm.
he gave me the answer, he'd place his. So that's sort of where that passion for that show came from, and then it's just sort of stuck with me because again, it reminds me of my dad. But at the same essence, though, like I said, I have probably found a new love recently, especially in the process of producing new episodes of Sail the Century, which is another quiz show. A little bit easier than Jeopardy, but at the same time, it has different aspects of it that make it a entertaining show to watch. But
Yeah.
top 5, I guess, as of today, which this list you can change on a regular basis. Number 1 would be Tic-Tac-Toe. Number 2
Oh.
would be Sail the Century. Number 3 is Wheel of Fortune. Number 4 is Price is Right. And this might seem a little out there for this one, but for me, number 5 also was Blockbusters.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, not that I have any disrespect to like Jeopardy, Family Feud, any of the shows that are still on today, but something about it was this blockbusters where not only did you have to be good at the game and have a lot of knowledge based on the questions that were being asked, but again, it's also sort of a strategy where you were having to plot your way across the board to connect one side to the other. So it's one part strategy, one part knowledge, and again, that's what makes that game very interesting and has always been in my top 5.
Yeah. And it's pretty crazy what quiz shows I inspire about the contestants that know about the knowledge of the questions,
Right.
because you have to study. You have to study for uh, well, however you study for these game shows, because
Yeah, and
you
that's sort of
know,
the nice thing about it is, it takes a measurement of your entire knowledge of what you're into, what you study. So,
yeah.
those that have know a little bit about everything, definitely it benefits them in some cases.
Hmm. And if I'm gonna play a quiz show,
Mhm.
I like it to have multiple choice, because it's just easier that way. I don't like
Yep,
it.
and that's what we've seen, like, a lot more of the newer shows where you'll have multiple choice where people feel like they have a chance at knowing the answer there. Um, I'm sort of s I'm sort of old school, and I guess that's just because of the era I grew up in. I'm more of the
Hmm.
open-ended, like, you'll figure out something and you just have to take a guess if you know what it is or not.
It's like,
But I
mm,
can totally see where multiple choice comes in handy, though.
yeah, like with Go Watch right before on your program is or mostly Kevin's. You do like before it was true or false questions, but when you read the question, you have the three multiple choice answers when you first read out the question before they can hear the question and buzz in.
Yeah, and that was a collective, decision between both of us there because it was like he had brought the issue up to me in regards of, like, a couple people that were just taking advantage of being the answer was gonna be 50-50. So to make it a little bit harder on them, that's
Yeah.
when we decided to go into 3 answer format, and that has seemed to worked out to the benefit of the show overall because I think it's made it better too. And
Yeah.
now we don't have to just read out particular statements. We can go into any sort of knowledge break on anything that we want. Because again, with the multiple
Mm,
choice format, one of the answers is always going to be there.
yeah. Um, what is your dream job if it's like for game shows or wrestling? What is the dream job that you are chasing for?
Well, it's one of two. Whichever one happens first would be great. I would love to either be a ring announcer or work for a commentary team for any wrestling promotion out there, like on a major television contract. Like that would be what I do for a living. or
Hmm.
I would like to be in the game show industry working for any game show, either as a game coordinator or even a host or even a producer of it at some point based on like
Just
game.
anything.
Yeah, because I mean, because I have a couple ideas in my pocket that, like, if I ever got a chance to, like, it's what they call the old elevator pitch. You meet like an executive or CEO in an elevator. You've got like 30 seconds to try to sell them a game to see
Yeah.
if you can get it on air. Like, I have a couple of those in my pocket that I'm like, let's try. And I'd like to see if I ever got the opportunity to talk about one of them. So, you know.
Just ready to bring back the no deal, please. Um, uh,
That is not in my hand. Like I said, I can't do deal no
yeah.
deal. You'll have to talk to the folks at Endemol about that one and NBC because they're the ones I think that still
Hmm.
own the rights to that. So
Sure.
no, these are different games that have not been game shows before, but I think would work very well.
Yeah, and also another one that works well is Password. I do Super Password on this channel with Mr. Morton hosting.
Hmm.
Um, how did you meet your, I guess, co-creator of MVG, Mr. Kevin Henry, WKP Cincinnati, and how much of an impact he has helped you with your YouTube and or just basically one of your best friends?
Well, with Kevin, we first met as just equals on a different game show server altogether. And
Okay.
we just sort of connected, became friends a little bit, got to know each other. It wasn't until like I asked him to come aboard and to take over for as host of Gold Rush after seeing he had had a bad experience working with some of his shows initially and
Okay.
got to a bad point. I reached out and sort of just made a connection with him as a friend, not
Yeah.
even from game shows aspect, and we just bonded over that, and then we sort of collabed together, and we've been working together for on Gold Rush ever since. So it's been fun, but like I said, he's made me think of a couple of different ways to like look at games and how to attack certain situations, and what the proper way and the best way to go about doing it is. So like I said that
Yeah.
in that aspect, he's probably helped me become a better not only host but as a producer, I guess, in that essence there. But at
Hmm.
the same time, so we still have fun. But like I said, if it wasn't for Kevin right now, I guess me and my wife legally would not be married because he was the ordained minister for our wedding ceremony. So yeah,
That's very cool.
that should tell you right there enough in and of itself.
That's very cool. Um, and about about Kevin, I think that the experience you're referring to, I think I know what game show you're talking about. Is I think it's uh Millionaire, I believe.
Hmm. That would have been
But
the one.
yeah, but I think Gold Rush is his main thing. Like he's been doing this for a few seasons now. Um, and he's done great with both hosting and announcing. I would love to have him as like a special guest for either of those.
I just had
On time until
you had to tell you like I tell anybody. You just have to reach out to him and ask him and see what he says. I said,
same with you as well. I mean, I want because with my Daryl Dawson Network channel, I want to help people grow each other's channels and like actually also have people other host their shows on this network because I want to make this like a cable network where you have a guide of shows on the platform and you just go
right?
in there and watch them. Like that's my big change for 2023, and I'll definitely reach out to you and Kevin if you want to host something or just do whatever on this channel. Like you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, and then that's sort of where my whole thing for MVG was initially just because like I agreed with you to the aspect of like at the time when I first started, Game Show Network was not that great because it did feel like all they ever had was either episodes of Match Game or episodes of Family Feud. There was lacking that variety of different shows and games and stuff out there. So
Mhm.
I wanted MVG to have a little bit of everything. Some games that you might have seen, some games you might not have seen, and just overall the fun and variety of games that could be had and watched and play along with too.
Yeah, and it's all about having fun. Um, and like I said, if I thought a game show I think it'll be good for you or coming to host, I'll definitely reach out to you for this channel. Because like I said, I want to help each other grow. I want to help people get more content out there because that's what I think everybody needs whenever they're going through a hard time. Because these content right here is for the fans, especially going
Right.
to 2023. Like that's what this content is all about. That's why I
Yeah.
do the show as well.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, if there's anything valuable that has happened in your YouTube career that has helped you grow, what would it be and why?
Hmm. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's happened yet. Like, because everything has sort of been either by chance or just throwing something out into the ether to see what happens. Maybe I don't think that big moments happen for me yet. Like, because there's still so much that I want to do, many different shows I want to tape and all, and things that I want to get into. But I'm not sure if that moment's actually happened yet. But I will say this: meeting other people who are as excited to be in the excited about game shows as I am, and seeing what they're doing probably has helped inspire me to continue on doing what I've been doing here.
Yeah. Um, maybe I guess Mr. Henry coming to help you. Well, I guess for producing the shows and announcing, like that could be one, and also being married thanks to him.
Could be.
Um, but well, speaking of which, how does it feel to be married? Like, tell us about that experience.
It's it feels the same as it did before because me and my wife have been together going on, I guess it'd be 12 years now. We've only been married like the last year and a half, going on
Congratulations.
about to be two. So we've been yes, yeah. Next year I'll be 23. Yes, my wife's over here.
Yeah.
Let's say, yeah, we got married in 2021. It'll be about 2023. That's two there, plus the 10 we've been together prior to that. So is that not
Mm-hmm.
12? Yeah,
No,
'cause yeah, technically, I guess we did start officially dating in 2011. So yeah, you'd be right. Was it 12?
sure.
Okay, all right. She says it was 2012. So okay, by that point, it would be 11. Hmm. Oh, okay. That's a good way to remember it then. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes perfect sense there. I'm not about to give out that information. Oh,
It's all getting.
yeah, she basically just say she remembers it because she has to write the date that we started dating down so many times for different pieces of information for her work. That's why she remembers the date way
True.
better than I do. So it's like, yep, that's a good way to have to do it.
Or even just put on your calendar. I mean,
Yeah, I for some reason I think I met her in 2011 is what it is, and that maybe that's why I associate that time too. But yeah, we didn't start dating
yeah.
till almost a year later.
Hmm. Um, what do you have planned coming up for 2023 on your channel?
Well, for the back half of this year, I've sort of taken a break from like producing content and things of that nature because again, I've been doing it for 6 years running without stopping, averaging honestly about anywhere from 3 to 5 videos a week. So you could kind of do the math. That's like over 1,500 plus videos on the channel since I've been doing this. And now here I am. I was at the point where I was almost burnt out, ready just to sort of like stop doing it all
Mhm.
together because I didn't want to have to go through the process anymore. So I took a break from my end producing just to sort of like refresh myself and sort of get back into those that sort of same recording vibe. But going into 2023, I am coming back. As of right now, I'm looking at February because I still have a couple big events and things that I have to do in January that are going to take up some of my weekend time. But at this point, February, some February ish is what I'm looking at, and we're coming back uh what am I?
Like,
I said
like,
I get into doing so many different things. It's like yeah, it's hard to keep track. Oh, okay. It's like reminding myself. I'm doing my third season of Pressure Luck because people have been asking
mm,
for it. And they love seeing the battle against the whammies, and that one's fairly easy to produce. And then we're also doing a series of Caesar's Challenge, an obscure word game show from the '90s that was originally made by NBC, and I saw it on its run of shows on USA. So and it's a fun little game, sort of like if a slot machine and Lingo sort of had a baby, sort of what that show sort of plays out as. But yeah, we're doing that, and then for the fall season, I don't know yet because I've been back and forth on doing a couple different things. Like I've done 3 seasons of yeah, I've done 2 seasons of Wheel of Fortune. I've yet to do a full season of Jeopardy, and people with the whole Jeopardy craze keep asking about it. So it's like I'm probably gonna
it's
end.
a tough, it's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but it can be done, and I'm probably looking toward um probably doing that,
I
or
love to see,
possibly even doing a full season of, Pyramid as well, the $100,000 version.
I would love to see, Wheel of Fortune, come back.
Yep, like I said, we just got through doing Wheel not too long ago. I think it was the earlier half of this year I was still making Wheel. So,
Mhm.
with me, it takes a while because there's so many shows that I gotta do, and I've gotta tape, like, 25 episodes, and, like, unless I just wanna permanently glue myself right here to this computer for 24 hours a day, which I don't get
Not
paid
happening.
for, I'm like, I can only do maximize producing, like, 2 at a time and 2 shows and being good at it. 'Cause I was
Hmm.
like, I've always been in the mentality too that sometimes less is more. I mean, I could crank out episodes of, like, different things and just throw them up to YouTube, but they wouldn't have the dedication, they wouldn't look and feel like real game show, it just look like a recording of something that
Yeah.
happened. So it's like, no, I want that, plus again, also yeah, similar to some folks that I've seen on YouTube. But I'm
Hmm.
also too, like I also like having a life as well, where I get to do
Yeah.
wrestling, karaoke, spend time with my wife and family and things of that nature. So it's like, like I said, I can't do more than 2 at any given time. Because like I said, that's one day on essentially for me, it's one day just dedicated to recording, and then about
Hmm.
1 or 2 days afterward to edit, and then I have the rest of the week where I'm responsible for other things. So,
Yeah. Everybody has a busy life,
mhm,
can't be on social media 24/7 because it's not healthy for you. So, um, but, um, what I'm trying to think of, what was it like to use social media for the first time?
yeah, WrestleMania, wow, that
No, no, social media
oh, social media.
for the
To
first
be on
time.
to be honest with you, I'm not good at it at all. Like, if you were to go to my Facebook page right now, most of the stuff you're gonna see is either, like, somewhat inspirational or just cute stuff, or stuff that's just
Hmm.
gonna make you laugh because that's what I am. Like, the world's already so serious and still dealing with so many different issues that are like I don't share a lot of my personal life because 'cause I'm like, I
Yeah.
feel like that's where a lot of people get in trouble with social media. Is the fact that they want to share everything with everybody all at once, and I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, I like enjoying a little bit of privacy to myself. I enjoy
Yeah.
sharing that moment with with special people, or just people who are in the room together. Right? It's like I don't need the entire world to know at exactly 2:37 this afternoon I was in the bathroom taking a dump. That's not necessary. I can live without knowing that myself, honestly. But like,
Uh,
but realistically, it's like, no, I'm like, I'll use it as promotion for what I'm doing on the YouTube channel, you know. But honestly, my YouTube page is probably the biggest portion of my social media. I have
yeah.
Twitter and I have Facebook, but even then, I don't use them that much. I use Facebook mainly to keep track of my wrestling contacts and folks who are part of my Discord server if I need to message them that when they're not responding there. And then I
Yeah.
use Twitter mainly just to promote stuff that is for my YouTube channel,
Hmm.
and my personal Twitter is I barely even touch it, honestly. So
Yeah.
that may be where a lot of places where I'm lacking, that maybe not helping me grow to that next level because I don't have a team. It's like I always talk about my directors and producers and everything for all my shows. You're looking at them for the most part. 98% of the content that you see on there, I've done myself. So it's like I
Yeah.
don't have enough hours or times or in my day to be able to do all of that.
Hmm.
That's
Um.
72%.
Oh, I just got a question from Mr. Alex Paris.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, never mind. It's something else. My fault. Um.
Sorry, I like
Um.
he lets me announce for him over on his channel for the 25. Listen, I'm hoping to
Oh yes.
do some more projects with him this year as well too. At least just times where I can sit in on recording sessions and not have to do everything like in pre or post production, as it were.
Yeah. Um. So. Yes. South to the 25. KPR TV.
Hmm.
Um. You've been working with him for since the L4GS days, of course, but I think
Yep.
right.
Hmm.
Oh. So. Um. Um. Let me see for uh the next question I have here is um growing up, what is your favorite childhood memories?
I think growing up was always enjoyed summertime and enjoying spending time with my friends, riding my bike. I had loved enjoyed bicycle riding when I was younger. Um,
Hmm.
I would just again, it was my mode of transport. It allowed me to be able to go around the city where I was and sort of get me out there to see places. Because otherwise, I was pretty much as a kid who stayed home, played Nintendo, read books, and that was it. I was a definitely a sheltered child growing up. But, it was that just sort of allowed me to sort of break out and be able to explore and do things on my own. But I always enjoyed the summertime because again, no school, didn't have nearly as many responsibilities to do. And I could just get out and go play and actually be a kid. And I miss those days being as an adult looking back on it, thinking how I so desperately was in a rush to grow up, and now I'm like, no, I want to go back to doing this because it was so much easier.
Hmm. Um, and what is your favorite game show memories as a kid?
Um, that's a tough one. Because again, I for the game shows that I got to witness as a kid, a lot of them again were the rebroadcast from stuff that had aired live in the earlier part of the 80s. Because I was born in '84, so my earliest memories of like watching or retaining any sort of game show wasn't until right around the start of the '90s. So by that point, all we had was like a couple shows maybe on USA, and then you had the some of the big ones that are still around. Wheel of Fortunes, your Jeopardies, your Family Feuds, and your
Mm-hmm.
and let's see what was the other one. Well, I would say Family Feud, but Family Feud was it going at that time? Because I think it was during the time when Dawson had ended his show initially, and they didn't bring him back till it wasn't like till like '93, I want to say. But again, I didn't watch a lot of Family Feud when I was younger. I watched during the summertime as well. I watched Press Your Luck. I watched Sale of the Century, Tic Tac Doe, Joker's Wild, the Pat Boone edition from 1990s, not the original one.
Oh,
Whatever USA held on to that day, and I guess even though it's not a game show, but I did watch a lot of it. I watched the original American Gladiators. Love that show.
uh, um, what about for any favorite TV shows or movies?
Didn't watch a lot of movies as a kid just because we couldn't afford to go to the movie theater, and I wasn't really a
True.
movies kid. But yeah, I played a lot
Yeah.
of video games as a kid. Probably my favorite system that I enjoyed was the Super Nintendo because I probably dedicated the most time to playing all of those games, whether it be my favorite game still to this day is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, the original Mario RPG game, because
Oh yeah.
it was made by Square, the same people who make Final Fantasy. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Kirby Superstar. I enjoyed the Mario World games. That's where I spent a majority of my time. Mind you, I did play a few of the game show games back then. I played the Wheel of Fortune. I played the Family Feud. I played Jeopardy. I was terrible at
Mm-hmm.
Jeopardy. If I went back and played it now, I'd probably still be terrible at it. But
Yeah.
I at least have a much better score than I would have had initially then. But.
Mm-hmm. Um, what is the greatest struggle that you've overcome?
I guess of just for me, it's just my initial fear of getting into doing something because of like I tend to like overthink and try to cover as many bases on things as I can. And then one thing I've struggled with is just doing it. Like I've said for probably the last couple of years, I've been wanting to do more live streams where I can connect with the folks at home, doing those games and stuff live on,
Mm-hmm.
like, YouTube, and I've just not gotten to it yet. I keep saying I'm working on it, and honestly, I still am. I just haven't pulled the trigger to do it, but I'm hoping if things go well in, like, the next month or so, I could finally gonna be able to make that happen as well, so we'll see about
Yeah,
that.
indeed. Um, do you see any game shows today right now on television that are currently running that need to be fixed or a way to get better?
Um, it's hard to say because I haven't had regular, like, television, for, like, several
Uh,
years, so I don't get to watch like some of the
People
local
don't
shows
really have
getting
cable
that too.
anymore.
Yeah, and everybody's like so the most of the game shows that I catch now are like what's being restreamed on either like Buzzer or Game Show Network or what's available on Pluto, which they have a wide variety of stuff now. But
Hmm.
this is the one thing that I've seen that I will make a case for till I die, and people have issues with it. Me and my buddy Kevin still disagree on this fact that like my only issue with Wheel of Fortune, the game's great. The game plays perfectly fine as is and will continue to do so. However,
Hmm.
the catch with that one is because of the raising price of inflation. If you think back to the early days of Wheel of Fortune, I think in the first round, the biggest amount that was on the wheel was like $500, and then buying vowels during the original era was, I believe, it was 200. Later, increased to 250.
Hmm.
So it made you couldn't buy like you couldn't buy all the vowels in just with one spin of the wheel unless you just got really lucky and got a bunch of letters there. But I've said for several years, and I've tried to initiate it in my first season of Wheel. I did it here on the channel was vowels need to be increased to $500 because it adds a level of strategic gameplay into it, making you have to try to spin the wheel and try to risk the money just a little bit more, adding a little bit more excitement to the game, but at the same time also not making like because I think you can go the top dollar amount now in round one's 2,500, and I think all the
Mhm,
rest of the wedges on the wheel are anywhere from 500 to like 950 now. So I'm like, with one spin of a wheel, even if you get the 500, you get two letters. There's four out of the five vowels, which are usually about all of them that you need. So I'm like, why not actually make it a little bit more strategic? And you have to pick where you want to buy your vowels and be and make you have to figure out the puzzle. Plus, not only do that, it might end up in the long run actually putting more money in the players' pockets because they'll end up buying less of them and might and again add that additional level of strategic to the game and brings back some of that original feel of what Wheel of Fortune started with.
mhm. Hold on, Mason. Yeah, the only issue I have with Wheel of Fortune is the $1 million wedge. Like nobody wins that.
Well, again, it's I and I look at it when this is sort of like behind the scenes my thinking when I'm doing shows. I look at it from the aspect of both the person who's going to be watching the episode and a producer. Like if I was going to make it an actual show myself, there has to
Yeah.
be some balance to it somewhere. And yes, the $1 million wedge, yes, it people are upset about all the hoops and jumps that you have to go through to try to get it and win it, but that's the point. Like, all these shows have, like, a budget that of money that they're allowed to give out before they run out. Because if they run out of money, they can't make the shows anymore, and it ends up stopping the seasons for what they are. But
Mhm.
to have to not only land on the $1 million wedge, call a letter right to pick it up, survive the rest of the game without hitting a bankrupt or losing it, get to the bonus round, spin the bonus wheel, and land on the $1 million wedge, and then finally solve that puzzle. That seems like it's an appropriate amount of money because, again, at the end of the day, it's still $1 million in cash. I mean, it may not go as far as it used to just a few years ago due to the rapid increase of inflation and whatnot. But honestly, it's still $1 million. And if I, as an executive, was trying to give that away to somebody, I'd make you jump through a few hoops too before you got there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very similar in the same of like the Powerball drawings. Like you have to pick all six numbers correctly in order to get it.
True.
So like it's easy to pick one. It's hard to do six, get all six, which is why you don't see like multi-million-dollar winners in the Powerball every single week during the
Look what
drawing.
happened. Look what happened with the lottery recently of how big that jackpot got
Yeah, over a
this year.
billion dollars, and I mean, I think the Mega Millions, at least as we're recording this right now, just crossed the $500 million mark. So we're already
Yeah.
halfway back there again.
Mhm. So I mean, anything can happen
Sure.
with. So it's all about a small chance of something big. So and for Real Fortune, no other one has happened since 2014. And I'm not talking about celebrity Wheel of Fortune. That doesn't count. I meant like for the
Nah.
actual no, because they have multiple Wheel of Fortune wedges. Um, do you have any advice for those who want to start their own YouTube channel?
Um,
This will be the final question.
my advice for them would simply just to be find something that you're passionate about that you want to share with the world. Because that's going to make you excited about making content for it, whatever it may be, whether it be video games, music, art design, just showing your talent to the world. Whatever you want your channel to be about, be passionate about it. That way you'll also stay dedicated to it. Because again, going back to what I said originally too, the more effort you put into something, the more you're going to get out of it in the long run.
Yeah. Um, it's all about being yourself as well and
Yeah, I
having
mean,
fun.
yeah. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your audience, whoever they may be, and let them know. Let them see part of who you actually are, and they will. if you could connect with your community in that sort of way, you end up being a better YouTuber in the long run.
Agree 100%. Uh, Before we get going, I guess I'll ask this silly question. What do you think about the Chris Rock Will Smith slap? Real or fake?
Mm. It's a thought I have not actually sat and thought about for a hot second, but I've seen things that make it look like it was a setup and it was a fake, but at the same time, like, it was so controversial. I don't think it's something that would have just happened straight up out of the blue, because most of the folks at the Oscars and whatnot would assume that they were good friends, and they were. And I said, I don't know what their relationship looks like now, but I'd say the slap
From what I heard, like they never
probably
talked to each
real.
other since.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely some realness to that, and I'd say it was an actual thing,
Like they never talked since.
right?
So, and Will Smith has been banned for a decade, which is crazy for the Oscars. But
Well, again, we all make decisions in life, and we all have to deal with the consequences that come from them. Like he could have sat there and talked with Chris Rock after the show and saying where
yeah,
he crossed the line, but he decided to act upon it either by outside influence or by his own personal choice. And again, whatever's come of it is what he has to deal with. Now, mind you, I'm glad to see he's still acting. He's back at doing things again and getting another chance to sort of redeem himself. So, I mean, at this point, everybody's gotten their pound of flesh they want out of him at this point. So I'm like, let him
true.
just get back to making movies again because he is a great actor. And I enjoyed him and on the Fresh Prince. Like I said, that was part of my childhood growing up too, watching Fresh Prince and Family Matters. Those are two shows that definitely influenced me and sort of a family dynamic that I have at this point in my life as well.
Oh, we're going to overtime. Tie game 128 to 128. The game we decided about the game before we
Oh
came on.
wow, there it over.
128 to 128.
Jesus, I didn't realize you could score that many points and getting into overtime at this point. It's like, and they're
Mm-hmm.
talking about trying to add a 4 point line. Like, why? Just why? You're getting
Yeah.
128 points. Like, that's a lot of offense. There's no defense being played there. So that's
Yeah.
wild.
Mm-hmm. You may have to look at the highlights,
Yeah, I'll
on
check
your own
those. I'll
time.
check those out when I get to work. Sure.
But that's going to be it for this episode of 3000 Hangouts number 91. I want to personally thank Mr. Scruggs here for coming on here on this episode. It really means a lot for me to do an interview here once again. One of my last interviews for 2022. I might have something else planned before New Year's, but all time will tell. You have any final words that you want to say to everybody?
Again, just for those of you who have been subscribed to the channel, I do appreciate each and every one of you. And for those who haven't, like I said, you want to give it a chance if you like game shows, please hit me up. Subscribe to MVG. That's M as in Michael, V as in Vance, G as in Gentry Productions on YouTube, and give me
Yep,
a look and see what you think. And for everyone else that's not into either that, I just say go out and remember the golden rule, because in society today we feel people are forgetting how to communicate with one another, and just
absolutely.
like genuinely try to treat others as how you'd be treated, because I feel like we would be in a much better nicer place than where
Yeah,
we're at today for that, just by
just like it,
just by being common decent people to one another.
and just being you. That's the
Right.
key. And I believe he has said before he might have some live streams planned that
Yep.
might are
That is in the works. I'm trying to work out the logistics of it at this point, because again, I've never done live streaming before, so seeing it's something that I'm just trying to make sure I educate myself properly on how to do before I just jump in head
yeah,
first, see and probably smack my face up against the wall doing it initially. So, but they are
orthodox.
coming and they will be here. sooner
Yes.
rather than later, probably.
Yeah. Or head first dive into the base.
Hmm.
If you will.
You're not wrong.
But yes, so I want to thank everybody for watching. Be yourself and be real. Good night, everybody.